Today on The Grid, our topic is misconceptions about learning photography. We have a very special guest author and super awesome guy and photographer. Mark Silber is joining us all the way from out in California. Of course, joining me here in the studio, it's the real man. He's a can of ham. He drives a Dodge Ram. He has a Florida tan. He eats lots of bran. He's from Kyrgyzstan. It's the real rocket man, Erik Kuna. We've got some sweet, sweet giveaways, and it all starts in just 30 seconds.
The Grid is brought to you by Platypod, the tripod alternative that is changing the world. Everybody has a Platypod. You should too. Go to platypod.com.
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to another live episode of The Grid. Scott Kelby here. Over on the other set, we've got the socially distanced Mr. Erik Kuna.
Hey, Scott.
K-Man.
How's it going?
Very, very good. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
We waiting in the wings. We have a very special guest, and he's going to basically drive this show because he has written a whole book on the topic. He is a prolific author, and this is I'm going to say his third time on The Grid. Is this number 3?
I think so.
I think this is his third time on The Grid. He's one of our favorite guests because he's first, he's very handsome.
I think this topic, too, is something that affects us all, right? This is something that always coming up, always in our lives. So.
Absolutely, dude. The misconceptions. And here he is. There he is. Mark, welcome to the show.
It's so good to be back. You know, this might be number 4. I've lost track.
I know I get
a jacket with 5, right? Don't I get the green jacket?
Yeah, you don't get the green jacket. That's the Masters. You get the jacket that we steal from Saturday Night Live. That's
you get the hacker set jacket.
All right. one more. I'm there. I believe that by my count. Okay.
All right. Well, that's good to see you, Mark. How are things out on the West Coast?
Things are gorgeous here. You know, we're coming out of the whole pandemic at this end, and the weather's gorgeous, and life is good.
Yeah, it is. It's been I'm so ready to travel. I'm just so ready to go. I want to go everywhere. I want to go because I'm just a traveling guy all year long. You know, I'm traveling all over, and then to just come to a stop. The last trip I took was at the January of 2020. I went out to Anaheim, California, to the National Association of Musical Merchants trade show, the NAMM show.
Musical Merchants, wow!
Yeah. Oh, it's great. I went when I was 17, and then I went again now, which is older than 17, and it was just as great. But just as great, and we had a wonderful time. My buddy and I went out there, and he plays guitar too, and so we just had a really fun time, and that was it. And then I've been stuck in the house ever since.
I hear you. Yeah, we want to get out. We did a road trip last fall all the way up to Montana in my little Mini Cooper S.
Oh,
and
nice.
it was phenomenal. We went through Jackson Hole. We got up to Big Sky and down to into Utah. It was really cool. I took a lot of photographs, of course.
Yeah, Erik and I drove to Orlando back in October. That's as exciting as it gets.
That's a road trip. Now that's a road for you guys. Yeah. What is that? An hour and a half?
Yeah, an hour and a half.
It was an hour and a half.
Maybe an hour and 40 minutes.
It's a big road trip.
Yeah, it was big. Anyway, good to have you here, Mark. So our topic today. Awesome. As we mentioned, is misconceptions about learning photography. Now, one of the things that I love that you do in your books quite often is you interview other people in the industry, and you get a lot of input on different things. And so can you kind of give us some insight into your process?
Well, yeah, exactly that. I'm a big believer in, if you want to find out something, go to the people who have already researched it, that know it, and they can just shortcut the whole process. So I'm a lazy learner, and I always find it's easier than me reinventing the wheel to go to those who know, like, Scott Kelby when I was learning Lightroom. And I talk about you in my book. But I have interviewed over the years, I don't know, I've lost track and I should probably add it up, but we're probably into the hundreds. And I do ask for misconceptions. Shall I just dive in? But anyway, that's my basic process, Scott.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
I record them as videos, and when I wrote this book, I'd already conducted 1,000 hours of interviews. So a lot of what you find in this book is what's condensed out of those interviews and my own experience, of course. But it's a lot shorter than watching 1,000 hours of footage that you have to then sift through, right? Because it's not like everything that came out of these guys' mouths was perfect, too. I still had to use my, awareness and understanding of, like, is this something that just worked for them, or is this something that is universal and will work for any photographer? And those are the only things that made it into the book.
Well, that's important to be an editor and curator, right?
Yes.
Like, I write a lot of words in my books, and my editor, Kim, goes, nah. This is stupid.
Don't need that.
I'm just taking this out. But that's what a great editor does. And that's what's wrong with some movies. Some movies, I think every movie is about 30 to 40 minutes too long. Like every movie, a great editor could make the movie shorter and
that's
more
what's wrong with a lot of people's portfolio.
There are too many images.
Edit.
So, Mark, what you did is a very important part of the process. It's great that you spent literally 1,000 hours. But it is a gift to be able to sift through that and get to the meat. So let's get to the meat. So tell us tell us about some of the misconceptions that you dug out in this.
All right. Okay. So one author, photographer I've interviewed a number of times is Ed Kashi. If you're not familiar with his work, he's amazing. He's done 17 stories for National Geographic. Imagine just having one photo, but he's done 17 stories in National Geographic. He's won all sorts of awards. His photographs are stunning. I'm going to switch my screen and I'll just show you what he said. So I asked him, and he said the biggest misconceptions or false beliefs about photography are that it's easy to do. Now, you have to kind of stop there and go, well, wait a minute, aren't we always telling people that it's easy and, hey, just follow this and it's easy to do? But it is a misconception because compare it to learning an instrument, Scott, right? Like there's a guitar sitting in my room. Unfortunately, I don't play it often enough. But to learn that guitar, I didn't learn it in one day. Right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because we all have these in our pockets, a lot of people think, oh, this is really easy, right? Just point it and press the button. But that's not really learning the meat of photography.
No, it's physically easy, and what a great comment that Ed made there. And here's what I would compare it to. I'm going to take Ed's thing and take it one step further. I can hand you a pair of drumsticks, and you can hit a drum, and it's bang, and it's like, wow, that's easy. There's nothing wrong. I mean, you can give it to a child, 2-year-old, boom, they'll hit a drum, no problem. But that's not playing the drums. That's right. And so what he's saying there is it's easy to pick up a drumstick and hit a drum. It is hard to play the drums.
Yeah, well, and that's why I laughed when this topic came up, because I know we've talked about this on the show before.
Yep.
And it's like in his quote there, when you're looking at it, it's really that what's hard is great photography. The act of taking a photograph, it's simple. It's pushing a button. It is just
a drum.
That's it. Yeah.
And that becomes a barrier to people learning if they think, oh, this is really easy. I can learn this, in a weekend workshop. I'm now a photographer. But to play the drums and become Ringo Starr, that's really going to take a lot of work. So, like anything, you have to buckle down and be willing to put in the work. And if you're not, then you're not going to make it to that point.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. That was Ed's first.
I knew he was coming.
You've got to spend a lot of time with Paul and George and John.
Yeah.
It takes a while to get with them and to get some rippy-dippy-doo kind of riffs.
You should have been here when we had the Photoshop World theme where it was the Beatles. That was like the 6 months was that voice.
Yeah, it was great.
Every meeting.
It's the great lads.
Yeah, the Liverpool accent. Okay, do you want to see his next one?
Yes.
So that's just where he opened up. Okay, the next one I think is really phenomenal. Okay, check this out. So he said, you can only make great images in great light. Okay, this I believe, won him a Pulitzer Prize. The story was this woman was being convicted and she's standing trial. Now, the lighting is horrible. It's fluorescent lighting. It's terrible lighting, right? Who wants to shoot in fluorescent lighting? And not only that, then look at the background. It's all, that ugly sort of blue and the brown walls and then the ugly floor. But what does he make out of this? A brilliant image that has nothing to do with the bad lighting. And if he has to photograph wherever he's going to photograph, and by basically concentrating on the story of the image itself. And I think it's remarkable. Look at her face. He couldn't bring a flash in there. He couldn't bring reflectors in. But he still managed to light her face beautifully, right? I mean, their skin tone is amazing. So you can only make great images in great light. Not so much. And we have to be, as photographers, we have to basically take whatever lighting we're in and use it to our best advantage. Here's another one that goes with this. This is, this is an image of a child who was suffering from Agent Orange, and this is not good lighting. Look at this, the highlights on her face, and the lattice work of the reflection behind her. I think most photographers would have said to her, "Hey, would you step over a couple of inches over this way so I don't have this mixed lighting on your face?" But he just went with it. And I think that's also another remarkable thing. He's finding the story and the best way to tell it in spite of whatever the challenges are with the lighting. So those are another couple of examples of, you got to learn to photograph in any kind of light. Now, we all love the golden hours, of course, but we've got 2 golden hours a day.
Right.
What are you going to do the rest of the time?
But Mark, what he's doing, and I think this is important to note, he's doing editorial photography. He's doing real journalistic type of photography.
True.
In that case, the lighting doesn't matter. You're not going to have great light because you have no control over the light. You might get lucky. But I think in the bigger picture, if I was talking to somebody new, I would say, if you're doing editorial, the light you get is the light.
Yes, you have to embrace it. You have to embrace it. I do photojournalism.
Yep.
I have to embrace the light.
Yep.
I just have to embrace it.
Right.
But when I'm not doing photojournalism, I know where you're going.
Yep.
I do not wake up in the middle of the day and go, I'm going to make a picture.
If I'm going to go make a landscape,
let's go out at 1 o'clock and take a portrait.
Yeah, no. See, we wouldn't do that. But he's right on the money though for the stuff
editorial,
that he's doing.
Yes.
And by the way, his images are tremendous. You were right, Mark. That his stuff is, and you're right. He's made very deliberate decisions about how he wanted to frame the images and show them, and that is such a powerful image of the woman. Well, they're both powerful images, but the woman on that is I love a picture, Mark, when you see it and you want to know the rest of the story.
Yes, there was all the elements of that
why
story.
Why is she on trial? What was the verdict? And
that was not only the lighting, that was the framing, that was the composition.
Yeah,
everything
that guy's off the chain. And same thing with this one with the Agent Orange portal.
Yeah, I'll go to that one. Yeah, exactly.
Both phenomenal.
You get drawn into the story, and that's what he's so brilliant at, is just bringing you into the story. And that's another good point.
Yeah, I mean, that one's light, shadows, colors. Look at all that stuff going on there.
All over the place. And, leaving dark areas, a lot of dark areas, what that does is it leaves you asking questions, If everything is perfectly lit, well, it kind of reveals the whole story. But we have this question mark, like, what is it I'm even looking at here? What's causing this green grid? I mean, it's some sort of window, but I don't get it. Is it reflecting, or what's happening here? And I think that's the secret of his photographs. They really draw you in.
Wow, they really do. He's something. So do we have time for one more? Can we share one more before we go to break?
You asking me? I can do as many as you want.
Mark,
do another one?
This show's about you. You keep going, bro.
That professional photographers only shoot in manual modes. Oh yeah. Do You guys run into this, right?
Oh, yeah, all the
Everybody-
time.
I see this misconception, like classes on how to shoot in manual mode. Well, why? When we had these cameras, okay, of course we shot in manual mode. That's all there was, right? But to me, it's like if you have a tool that can enable you to more quickly get to what you should be doing, which is capturing the image, why not use it? And I'm not saying I put my camera on P, but I definitely usually shoot in aperture priority. Because why? Because the time that it takes to fiddle with the manual stuff, I could have missed the image.
Yep.
Well, and I think the point there too is that I mean, this is coming from a guy who there's times where I do shoot in manual mode, Milky Way stuff, night stuff, but the like you talk about aperture priority, like there's modes that will just get you in situations. So I think the bigger thing is not being locked into just shooting manual mode, using the mode that's going to make it easier for you. The technical hurdle of photography shouldn't be your limitation of making a great photo. It should be all the other stuff we've been talking about.
Yeah, and by the way, I with what Mark was saying, you can fiddle with your camera enough to where you miss the shot.
Absolutely.
And now there are certain modes you have to shoot in. Like if you're in a studio, you have to set your shutter speed at a certain thing. There's sometimes there's a legitimate reason why you have to. But I would say 95% of the time, unless I'm in a studio, I'm an aperture priority because all I have to think about is my f-stop. Why would you make more work for yourself? And sometimes, Rick Salmon.
Rick Salmon.
All right, Rick Salmon.
He just said, I always shoot in AV mode. So he's always in aperture priority.
Yep.
So there you go.
Hey,
I mean, I would say that 90% of the time, I'm probably shooting aperture priority. So.
Isn't this a myth, though, you run into all over the place on the internet?
Well, another one along those lines is this myth that you can't use auto ISO. That somehow auto ISO again is.
Tell everybody to use
I
auto
know,
ISO.
but I'm telling you, out there they won't use it. They won't use it.
Oh no! So Mark, we're gonna take a short break. When we come back, I just want to touch one more thing on because I have something I want to show on screen, but I got to get my screen connected.
Right. Okay.
So
when we come back, we'll do
we come back, we're gonna do that. But before we go, so you guys know that in just a couple of weeks we have our outdoor photography conference. It's 2 tracks, 2 days, all online. We're gonna show you a little a clip. We have a trailer, an official trailer for it. So we're gonna see it, and I'm seeing it for the first time.
Me too. So
we're all seeing it for the first time, but it's coming up here in just a second. So we'll catch you guys right after. I'm gonna try to get my computer synced up, and then I'll show you something that's right along with what Mark's talking about right after this. Don't go away.
For over 20 years, leading software developer Boris FX has made its mark on the film and television industry. Now, for the first time, our Academy and Emmy Award-winning visual effects tools are available for photographers. Welcome to Optics. Optics is a collection of 160 filters for Photoshop and Lightroom. Simply apply the effect and launch the interface. Optics features thousands of customizable and creative presets for photo editing and effects layering. The top tools include lens flares for cinematic looks, realistic night skies with star fields and moon generator, add lightning with on-screen interactive control. The Easy Mask tool creates masks with just a few clicks. Optics is available now as a plugin for Photoshop and Lightroom and includes the standalone application for macOS and Windows. Get Optics now for 15% off. Visit borisfx.com, add Optics to your cart, and apply coupon code KELBY15.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by B&H Photo, the professional source since 1973.
Alrighty, we are back. Scott here, Eric's here, and joining us all the way from beautiful California, Mark Silber's with us. And I want to pick up on what Mark was saying here just a minute ago, because I used to talk about this. So I did a thing in my How to Shoot Like a Pro tour. So this is going back like 8 or 10 years. Right, I was still doing slideshows in 4x3 format. That's how long ago it was. So anyway, I have some slides.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the myths was you need to learn to shoot in manual mode to be a good photographer. So can you see my screen? All right. So here's what I used to show. I'd say, okay, and I would bring up this screen and I'd go, okay, some of these shots were taken in manual mode, some were taken in aperture priority, some were taken in auto or program mode. Can you tell which one's which? Does it make the picture look any different? Does the picture look any different? And then I would reveal, which ones were which. But if there's a need to go to it, but really what you're saying is, and I have people will tell me stuff, oh, you can only do this in manual mode. I'm like, how often do you run into a shot where you can only do it? There are times.
Yes, there are. I mean, like I said, with me, night photography, I really start going into manual mode.
Yeah,
I mean,
you could do it in aperture, but
you'd have to fool your cameras.
Yeah,
and, I mean, there's
sometimes
it
is absolutely easier, tremendously easier to go to manual. But for the most part, I'm with Mark. I'm 100% on that one. It's like nobody knows what mode you shot it in but you. It's not like
and that's Rick immediately comments, yep, really? I'm only an aperture priority.
Yep,
forget it.
Aperture priority. It's unless you're doing flash.
And one of the things, Bob Holmes, who I've interviewed a number of times, says, what gets in the way of your photography is your camera. And if you let it get in the way. And so why put another barrier there? It's like you want to be as close as you can to instantaneous with your camera. Cartier-Bresson was asked, what's photography? He shot with this camera right here, that Leica M, that was an M2. He said, this is photography. And for him, he didn't want anything in the way but his ability to see the image, the decisive moment, bam, hit the shutter.
I know, but Mark,
everything else had to be instinctive.
Bresson, he was so arrogant. He always answered in French. So I always thought.
How arrogant is that?
I always thought, like,
you
man.
You have a point there.
Hey, so
that's deep.
Mark, we have a couple of
deep wisdom.
We're going to say hi to some people who are watching from around the world.
And we're also doing some giveaways today, right?
Yes. So, we got good giveaways today.
So today on the giveaways, we've got a Platypod Ultra. So everybody knows watching the show what a Platypod Ultra is. And then we got the new iPhone book from Scott there. So we're going to be giving away a copy of that. And then Boris FX Optics. We're going to be giving away that, which is a cool plugin for Photoshop and Lightroom.
Super cool.
Yeah, we just had a webcast on it a few weeks ago. You can go watch if you were curious about it, and it was
Dude, that
awesome.
plugin is insane.
Yeah, very deep. Very deep.
It's like you. It's very deep.
Very deep, yes. So we got people joining us all around the world. We got Alec Hunter from Aberdeen, Scotland. It's snow in May, so snow.
Alex, sorry about
that's
that.
not good. Cindy from North Carolina joined us. Dale from Iowa. We got Janie from Wyoming. Then we got Sherry from Ohio. Little Herman joined us from New Hampshire. Ramona from Newfoundland. Then we got John from Southern California, Kai from Thailand, and then Steve Bauer up there from Panama City, Florida. Stanley from Bowie, Maryland. We have Mark from Montana, Anders from Sweden, Dalton saying hello. Dalton will be joining us next week, doing some underwater photography stuff for the Outdoor Photography Conference. Then we got Lenworth Johnson saying hi. And then we got Deb saying hi. Lupus saying Feliz Cinco de Mayo. Glad to be here from our Ontario, Canada. Yes, and then Stuart from Long Island, Photo Doc from Arizona, Cheeky Nando all the way from across the pond. And then, so we got people joining us all over the place.
All right, so we have a comment from Tom. So Tom says, auto ISO is nice for places like country fairs. You're moving from building to building, shade to light, and you're not going to have a shutter speed issue. And that's what I tell people for travel,
yes.
and for street photography. Auto ISO is just the best.
Well, any kind of photography, even like you're talking about, like photojournalism, any kind of photography where you're not in control of the lighting.
Yeah, and it changes.
When the lighting is
Constantly
changing and you're not in control of it, why not?
All right, Mark, we're back to you, my friend.
Hey, I just want to mention, I have a brand new course on KelbyOne called Advancing Your Photography.
What?
And it's it's only a few weeks old, right? It's right out of this book that I wrote called Advancing Your Photography. What do you know? You can also get this book. I've got a special on it. It's like half price. You get the book free. I cover all the shipping and handling, and you can get it by going to advancingyourphotography.com. All right. I recommend having this book along with the course, by the way. You know, Scott, why we have courses, but the book is something you can carry around with you. You can put it in your camera bag and refer back to it anytime you want.
Well, also, a course winds up being an hour and a half, maybe. And I don't know, Mark's might have been 2 hours, but
it was 3 or something.
Right. But a book, I mean, you're talking about a depth, a whole nother depth and explanation of things, which I mean, there's reasons why we still have books and sell books, and I mean, there's reasons why, and there's people that prefer to learn by book. I can tell you this: I think all of Mark's books, or most of them. Mark's books are some of the most engaging and interesting and fun books. They are a mirror of Mark, even though he's doing a lot of research and sharing a lot of technical stuff. They are a mirror of him. So if you like his personality, and I know that you do, because everybody likes Mark, that comes across in your books. Your personality and your warmth and everything really comes across in your books. And so, highly, highly recommended. If you get a chance to get any one of Mark's books, they're all terrific. He's a prolific writer, but he's putting out phenomenal content, great quality stuff. So please go check out Mark's books. Give us that website again, Mark.
Yeah, it's easy. It's advancingyourphotography.com. It's the name of my book, and you can go right in there. By the way, not only can you get that book, but you can click on a button and get my other 2 books as ebooks as well. You can have them all 3 at once.
All right, I'm just going to put that address on screen. I'm going to put that address on screen here.
Yeah,
advancing
not that. Well, you can click, if you click there, Scott, just click on that right there, and it'll bring up the.
Oh, I think that's them in the control room there.
Yeah, that's Jason.
Oh, okay. That's the URL, advancingyourphotography.com. And there's a guy giving a whole spiel about it. I would skip that because I don't know.
Who's that guy?
Who is that guy?
But you can, there's all sorts of stuff going on.
I have it on my screen right now. If you want to grab your camera and take a picture of the screen, this is the time to do it.
That's it.
There it is, advancingyourphotography.com.
All right, so we're talking misconceptions of photography. You got any more misconceptions there, Mark?
Yeah, I do. So
I think he's got a book of them.
Yeah.
He's got a book.
A whole book of them.
I have a whole sheet of these things I've been collecting. And Erik, you said you've been collecting them too.
I collect them all the time too. And I know Scott does too. I mean, he's got those myths right there. So, I mean, it's just constantly these things come up and people talk. You know what it is? When you're talking to people, you realize what they're struggling with, and you're like, wow, it's a myth or a misconception that you bought into that. And I understand why. I don't want to discount that and go why do people believe this stuff? I understand why people believe the myths, but that myth is holding people back a lot of times.
Are we going to talk about flat Earth at all?
Oh, flat Earth, yeah.
You know, it's funny, Scott, that you mentioned that, because this next one from Ed really kind of fits into this. So look at this. So his was an inability to understand or see foreground, middle ground, and background to improve their compositions. And I think the myth would be that, photography is two-dimensional. You just kind of look at the whole thing all at once and press the shutter. But if you look at this photograph. It's just...
It's the layers.
Incredible. It's the layers. Absolutely. We've got the foreground, the kid jumping. We've got this middle ground of all that junk burning in the background. There's actually several backgrounds. There's that group of kids, and then behind the other way, there's the spire. But I think our big, secret as photographers is making a two-dimensional art form look three-dimensional. And the way to do that is to basically really, take a look and stop to really see that those at least those three elements of the foreground, middle ground, and background are all working together, not getting in the way of each other.
Well, look at the depth the photo has. Because it has a foreground and a middle ground and a background and then clouds behind that. A lot of people have very flat images. This is an image it's got tremendous visual interest, but part of that is driven by the layers. There's many layers and a lot of depth, and he's got a wonderful combination that we teach in composition, is that those layers, that foreground, middle ground, background. He's
absolutely.
I'm loving this guy, Ed.
Yeah,
Ed is amazing.
He's awesome.
And like you said, I mean, that's because we live in a three-dimensional world.
Do we then?
Maybe it's flat. Who
Most
knows?
of us do.
But because we live in a three-dimensional world and we're taking a two-dimensional image, we got to add that dimension to our photos.
Erik, when I look at your photos and you see a rocket taking off, I get the feeling like I'm there, and that's that added dimension, adding space to it.
And that's the key.
That's really important.
Yeah,
that's the real key.
It's hard. Yeah, photography's hard.
Photography's hard.
It's not easy.
All right, let's look at some more misconceptions.
You want me to keep rolling them out?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
This is your show, man. We're just here as comic relief.
I'll get into Hurley here in a second, but this is I asked him also for problems or areas of downfall that kind of get into this. He says, cannot focus on one story or project to get uncorked. I love that word he uses, uncorked. You got to let the genie out of the bottle. And if you don't focus on a project, and I really believe this is a very important part of learning photography. This is what I did in art school, is we were all given projects, or we decided what our project was going to be, and then we followed that through an entire semester so it could develop. If you just go with this idea that you go into an area and you shoot and then you leave and you shoot and you leave, okay, there's times we definitely have to do that. But when you develop it into a project, things are going to evolve. You're also going to have different lighting conditions, different conditions of if you're photographing people, and you're doing a sort of a documentary series, their moods are going to change. I mean, look at what's happened in the last year. All sorts of changes in moods and lighting and conditions and the way people look and interact and don't interact. So that's his advice. Let it unfold. Focus on a project. I have a class, a membership class, and then I've given them all assignments through the month of May. They're going to be photographing and picking a particular project, and we're going to see it unfold in front of our very eyes. Super important. And then the second part of that is not enough patience in the field to allow for the magic to happen.
Oh, that's big.
Ooh, that's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's bigger than it sounds. It really is.
I know.
And
It really is.
And I've fallen prey to that in the past. And I know that and this has kind of changed my style of getting to the shoot earlier, having enough time because when you show up on a shoot, you're ice cold.
You got to warm up.
It's just like anything else.
Yeah.
It's like sports, or it's like anything. You just got to singing, anything. You got to warm up. You got to get in the zone. If you don't allow enough time to get in the zone, to get warmed up and stuff like that, you're not going to let the magic happen. That's a great point.
And there's another part to that too, Scott. And this is probably one of my most common critique points. Is I look at the image, I go, wow, the stage is set beautifully. You know, here's the lighting, here's this beautiful framing, but you just didn't wait for that decisive moment. You didn't wait for that image to pop into the frame. And maybe it's going to take 10 minutes, 15 minutes or whatever. You know, the story of Ansel Adams waiting 9 hours for the clouds to move where he wanted over that mountain range. 9 hours. Well, I don't know what he did in the meantime. Maybe he went out and had a beer and came back. But that we don't know about that part of the story. But the patience part, you know, sometimes they just pop right in front of you, and sometimes you do. You see the stage is set, but nothing has happened yet. The table's all set, but we haven't put the turkey on the table. You know, we haven't started carving it. Wait for it to appear, because you never know how long it's going to take once you see the perfect setup.
No,
we've all been there.
We've all been there. That is so good.
We've all been
stuff.
there.
Oh, this book is good. This is good stuff. I love hearing these things. Let's do one more, and we're gonna have to take a break. But you got another. You got a bunch of them.
Oh man, I got an endless. A fear of failure. Okay, let's talk about that. Why is that a misconception? I'll tell you why. There is no such thing as failure. Failure does not exist in my vocabulary, because no matter what happens, if you go out and mess up a shoot, so okay, yes, I'm not talking about if you're on a paid shoot, you don't want to do that. But if you're experimenting, or you are learning, and you look at it and you go, wow, these are all out of focus, then what you should do is determine what caused that. And which is very easy, because we can open up our metadata and go, oh wait, I had the shutter speed way too low. No wonder it wasn't actually out of focus. There was camera shake. I learned from that. Oh, okay. What do you know? If I shoot at a 25th of a second, I can't hold the camera still enough. So that doesn't work. But was that a failure, or was that a part of a learning process? So I think if we get rid of the stigma of failure and basically be willing to learn and try things, we're going to advance much faster.
Yeah, it's a process, right? We learn more from our failures than we do from our successes. When you make a huge mistake, it's an enlightening moment. If everything works, you're like, well, that's great.
Yeah, well,
that's
one of the, like looking at my list, it's one of the things that, it's building off of what you're talking about here, Mark, of, one of the misconceptions is, just repeat, play it safe. And I will say that the best things in my photography is when I'm taking risks, when I am failing, when I am doing something that's how you discover new things. Just had that recently, where years ago I just started figuring out that maybe there's something happening, maybe I can capture, but I had to push my ISO higher than everybody else is telling me I can't go. And I'm having to, track at speeds that I thought I never could track at. But once you start doing that, the thing that you come out with, it's beautiful and people love it. But you never would have done that if you just played it safe and you were afraid to fail. And that's the one thing is that I can't encourage people enough, go and take that risk and go into it, because you never know what's going to come out. And you create this beautiful thing out of something that if you just played it safe, you didn't take any risk, you would have got a shot, but it wouldn't be the shot. Right. It wouldn't be that magical thing. We say that
all the time, Eric. We say that all the time when we're playing Call of Duty. We say our line to each other. It's like your loadout comes and somebody might be camping your loadout. You might get sniped. But we say, No risk it, no biscuit.
No risk it,
You
no
gotta
biscuit.
go.
No risk it, no biscuit.
And by the
Here's
way,
another way it was put. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to read this. This is out of my book on page 208. Pablo Picasso said, "I am always doing that which I cannot do in order that I may learn how to do it."
Ooh.
I'm telling you, I live by it.
Page 208.
Try
folks.
it.
Wow.
Really
Hey,
right there.
does anybody care that I won 2 back-to-back war zones last night? Our team won.
Hey, you risked it for the
I'm
biscuit.
stoked.
It's 150 people. We won twice, back-to-back, a duos and a triple. I'm just saying. Okay, we got to take a short one when we come back. I've got a myth I want to share. I know Mark's got more. He has
I've got
an
endless
unending supply. Stick around. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Maribel, and I'm so proud to bring to you my first KelbyOne class. I'm going to help you make your images really stand out. How? By using everyday materials in a creative way. We're also going to discuss how I tap into my creative team, leaning into friends, family, and other creatives to help you bring your vision to life. That'll open up floodgates of other possibilities for you. I'm going to teach you how you can create a really couture Hollywood avant-garde dress that's not necessarily bought, but created at home, yet has the same visual impact as a really expensive Hollywood gown. It's all about teamwork. Guys, we're not going to just take a photo, we're making a photo. If you want to learn how to make creative portraits out of everyday material, come watch my class at KelbyOne.com.
Imagine if someone took the same photographic techniques and principles and tools used by today's top pro photographers, but they applied those same techniques to shooting with the iPhone. Imagine the type of images that you'd be able to create using those same ideas. Well, that's exactly what I did in my brand new book. It's called the iPhone Photography Book. You're going to learn exactly what the pros use to create those incredible images. And when people see your shots with the iPhone, they're going to go, "I cannot believe you took these with your phone." But with the quality of the iPhone's camera and what they're doing with the iPhone software, you can absolutely take amazing pictures. In the book, I leave all the techno speak out, and instead I treat the whole book as if it were just you and I out on a shoot together, just you and me with our iPhones, and I'm there for just one reason: to help you unlock the power of your iPhone, so that you make pictures that when your friends and family look at it, they go, "Wait, you took this?" That's what the whole book's about. You'll learn which tools to use to make pro quality portraits in any lighting situation. You're going to learn how to create stunning landscape shots that will make people swear that you took that with an expensive DSLR or a mirrorless camera. You're going to learn proving posing techniques that flatter your subject and make anyone you photograph look their very best in every shot. You're going to learn how to organize, how to edit your photos like a pro, and you're going to learn the pros tips for making amazing shots of everything from flowers to product shots, from food photography to travel and everything in between. And if you're ready to start taking these pro-level shots that blow people's mind, then this is the book for you. It's in print and all the ebook formats, and you can get it directly from the publisher at rockynook.com, or you can pick up your copy wherever fine books are sold.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Canon.
Hey, we're back. Scott Kelby here, Erik Kuna, and we've got Mark zooming in from, well, not zooming, Zoom, something else, some other technology from California.
He's live via satellite uplink.
Ooh, live via satellite, like Elvis. Okay, so I have a myth for you. Mine's really quick and short, but it's one that I used to talk about on that same tour, so I'm still using an old slide. But this is one I still hear quite a bit. That zoom lenses, like you have to buy a prime lens and all. And let me tell you, there was a time that was true. I think that there
Yes.
many years ago, and
I mean, we're talking years.
but
Years
these
ago.
things,
Like that TV was around.
right? They take on a life. Like somebody heard it 25 years ago,
Yes.
and then now it's just what it is. And so let me tell you what. I'll give you an example. Joe McNally, right? What does Joe use?
Joe McNally.
24 to 70,
Yep.
70 to 200. You see Joe use
Just like the rest of us.
Right. Do you ever look at one of Joe's photos and go, they're just not sharp. They're just not sharp.
Yeah.
It's like, and the next person's like,
I have a pet peeve on this one.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, here's the thing, right? I mean, let's look at what a pro is doing. Do you want to be out in the field and go, oh, wow, I'm going to shoot with a 28 now, reach into my camera bag, open this, switch lenses, let all the dust get on my sensor because I'm outside. And then I take that one shot and go, well, no, really, it should be a 70. Okay, I'm going to do that whole process again.
Yep.
Switch, let more dust on my sensor, fiddle around. Maybe I've got a thumbprint on one of my lenses. But, that's absurd. Like, who does that? And,
It's because of a myth that was 20, 30 years ago.
Myth that goes along with it, which is like you're a real photographer if you're shooting only with prime lenses. Now, I know this is going to upset some people out there.
Oh, yeah.
But,
And by the way, even if you could even show on a graph that, do you ever look at a picture, Erik, and go, that was taken with a prime lens because it's so sharp?
No, only because I've taken it with a prime lens, and I would be the only one who would know, right? I mean, you never
you're the
know.
only judge.
We're going to sharpen every photo anyway.
Absolutely.
Every photo gets sharpened. And I only have 2 prime lenses. I have a 14, and I would prefer that it was a 14 to 24 like the Nikon.
Right.
It's just
you would, yeah.
that for us to have a small travel lens, that's it. And then I've got an 85.
Which, speaking of, though, there's an RF rumor that there's going to be something like really magical in that 11 to 24 range. So we'll see.
Wow.
I'd be getting that. Okay.
I would too.
Let's get back to Mark. Mark, you're
now
back.
Before
You're
we
on.
move on, I on the other side of this, there is one other. I will mention this. Okay, so I have. This is a Leica with a 50 millimeter lens, and I've got a 35. And I do have a Metabones adapter that's not what I want, that I can put it onto my Sony A7R3. Now, there's something about that, right? Go out with one lens sometime, that's all you've got. That's how we used to shoot all the time, right? There is something to that because it declutters. You've got to move in, you've got to use your feet to zoom. And there's definitely something to that. But I would say that mainly falls into a street photography kind of shoot.
Yep.
Right? And I want to just declutter everything. I want to keep it really simple. And I want to challenge myself. Fine, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. In that case, I could use one prime lens. But I'm not switching lenses around.
No.
That's just what I go out with, and that's all I've got.
My goal is to switch lenses absolutely as little as possible.
I hear
Less
you.
is more. All right, let's hit some more misconceptions. We only have about 10 minutes left in the show, so let's hit some more there, Mark.
All right. Well, let's move on let's see what Peter Hurley said. He had a whole different one. So Peter Hurley was saying, for me, most of the time I'm getting people over the worrying of what the guy down the street is doing and how cheap they are, or that nobody in this town will pay anything for a headshot, realtors are cheap, etc. That's what happens there is we make up our mind ahead of time. Nobody's going to buy my work. It's too expensive. It's too cheap. It's too this. It's too that. You're your own worst critic. Now, that's a no-no. So one of the things in this book, Create, this is about the whole...
I have that book.
Process.
Great book.
Thank you. I interviewed 12 really super creative people like Chris Burkhardt and Chris McCaskill, who was the co-founder of Smug Mug, and all sorts of different people. And they all mentioned, every one of them mentioned, the thing that they had to overcome was, thank you, there it is, yeah, is their own barriers in their own head about creativity, right?
Right.
You can look at somebody criticizing you and you can go, okay, well, I'm gonna bat away that criticism. But the real insidious thing is when it comes out of your own head. And, the first thing you have to do when you're selling something is you have to sell yourself to yourself. Like Hurley's talking about here. I love Hurley. He's our buddy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And who's going to get in the way of the sale better than you? If you go, they're too cheap, nobody's going to buy my headshots. Guess what?
No one's going to buy your
No one's going to buy, and you're just projecting
You're
that
writing your own business plan right there. You're writing your own business plan. No one's going to buy my headshots. You're right. Hey, can we go back to that Mark's book on screen for a second there, Jason? Can you pull that back up? And here's why.
Get it right.
Guys, people talk to me all the time, and I struggle with this myself in the creative part of this, right? I don't struggle with what buttons do what on my camera. I struggle with creativity and getting in a creative mindset. I want you to look at the price of this book. It's $13.99. What can you buy in photography that will literally improve your photography, and not just your photography, but just your creativity in general? What can you spend in the realm of photography for $14 that will make an impact?
I know one thing, a KelbyOne membership.
Yeah, you could do that.
But besides that,
I'm telling you, it's a handful. It's a handful of things. And if you want to put $14 to good use, don't go buy another. Well, I don't know what you can buy in photography. You can't even buy a UV filter.
A step-down ring, maybe.
Don't buy a step-down
Step-up ring.
Go get Mark's book, and it will impact you for more than just photography. Because we have to make creative decisions. Like, we have a web department here, right?
Yes.
But they're creative in what they do. They write codes, but they come up with creative solutions, and they come up with creative ideas. And everybody does, especially our accounting department. They're very creative. They hide all. I'm sorry. Let's move on. Anyway, back to you, Mark.
Creative. That's a whole
joke.
different area of creativity. We won't get into that right now. So do we want one more?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's see.
Positively.
Let's dig into our own. Oh, I've got one. I'm just going to give you my own, okay? And I've been working this backwards and forwards. It's more than just a misconception. I think it's an area that we all need to take a look at. Why are we taking photographs to begin with? What's the real purpose? Is it to just record an event? Well, not really, right? I mean, that's a snapshot. And this is what Ansel Adams said. He said the real key to a photograph is that you visualize it before you press the shutter. And a lot of people don't know what that means. I mean, what do you mean, Mark? I got to stop and think, and it's going to slow me down. Well, look, how come you're even taking that photograph? You must have had some vision of it to begin with, whether it's in a studio, or we're shooting a rocket taking off, or we're out shooting landscapes. There's some vision you had that put you in that spot. And if you can clarify that and really sharpen that visualization skill, which, by the way, I do tell you how to do that in this book.
By the way, there's a book.
And in the course that we've got on KelbyOne, it's like it's not just some sort of accidental thing that happens by chance. You can develop it just like you can develop your skill in music.
Sure.
You have to practice it, though.
Yeah. So Erik is very good at that. Erik is very good at visualizing. Like, he'll set out to do a particular thing. Like, he just did a shot last week with one of the old space shuttle.
It was an external hydrogen fuel tank.
External hydrogen fuel tank. That's exactly what I would have called it. Thank you.
Yes.
But he'll come up with these. He has a great one of his signature photos is his daughter dressed in an astronaut costume with the SpaceX rocket going across the top, and it's just
wow.
It's but he visualizes those. I occasionally have times where I know a particular shot that I want to create, but I got to tell you, Mark, that's something I struggle with. A lot of times I'm kind of, it's like they say in football, sometimes you take what the defense gives you.
Yeah.
Sometimes I take what the scene gives me. Erik is more of I'm going to
well, and I know the distinction you're trying to make there. And it totally is, and that's not the shot that he's talking about. But
No, that's the phallic shot he calls it.
Yes, that's the phallic shot. But anyways, I totally get what you're saying, and I think there are people that are definitely more in that planning. Like, that's me. I like to visualize and plan and all that stuff. But I think there's nothing wrong with the other style. I think what Mark's saying is, and I know you do this because I see you do that, in the moment, you are studying and composing the scene. You just naturally do it. I think after practice and all that, that you naturally do that. But that's where it is. It's just different. That's another one that was an opposite one of what we did. But yeah. But hey, speaking of that, I did want to say I actually had something happen this last week that was like a big milestone, right? So I had one of my images shared.
Oh, yes, this is big. Listen to
from the International Space Station. So actually, one of the astronauts who went up on the SpaceX rocket tweeted out and posted on Instagram my shot of the tanker from the International Space Station.
That's why.
So now I can check off the box of, like, I've had one of my shots shared by an astronaut from space. Yeah.
Wow.
So there you go.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool. Hey, I want to go back to what Mark was talking about of why we take pictures.
Yeah.
Because so here in the studio, obviously Erik and I are both photographers, but Juan and Jason are both, now they're videographers for their day job, but they're both quite good photographers.
Very good.
And one day I got to sit with them and ask them, like why do you take photos, right? And they both said the exact same thing. It was to meet girls. So
that's it.
That's one I hadn't really counted on, but
yeah, hey, it is.
They're single guys. Right? They're out there. So
you're a cool photographer. I mean,
and they're cool. They're both cool guys.
Oh yeah,
very cool. All right, Mark, we have 1 minute and 46 seconds left. So we have some prizes to give away. We've got 3 great prizes today. So let's get our prize winners. And while we're doing that, Mark, while we're gathering our prize winners, can you give us one last one to take us out? Give us one more misconception.
Yeah, one last misconception is, hang on, I'm going to have to scan my vast library here, but I would say, social media. So, I think we're all somewhat addicted to it. I mean, I admit, right, you put it up there, you get likes, you get comments. But is that really photography that was developed to be an art form, or is it something that it's like fast food? So I would say it's maybe more than just a misconception. It's like, be sure you are using your photography in the way that it was originally developed, which means making prints, putting your photographs in books, putting them places where they will endure and they can be viewed in their totality, rather than a split second scrolling through something really fast. Right?
Yeah.
Very good. Yes,
definitely.
yes, with an exclamation point.
Now, before we go out, I know we have a network to report to, but I have one on my list that I would like to talk about because this is I've got tons of ones on the list, but I've got a couple bolded, and one that the misconception of photography that is huge is that post-processing is cheating, right? So there's this misconception in photography that if you post-process your image, it's cheating. And I'll call out some of the professional photographers and even professional instructors who are photographers cause this misconception to be continued. And what they do is they go out to people and they go, oh, I don't use Photoshop. Oh, I don't edit my work. Yet I know these people shoot RAW. So you're immediately, when you shoot RAW, I guarantee if you're telling me you never post-process your image, you are lying.
You have to post-process.
You have to post-process your image.
That's the whole idea behind
But
RAW.
that's what I'm saying, is this misconception, and I've seen it, and the reason I'm passionate about this is I've talked to more people that have this barrier because of other professional photographers and other instructors who put this barrier in front of people to where they think that they can't do the post-processing because that's somehow cheating. And I'm telling you, it is not cheating. You have to process a raw file.
Dude,
that's the purpose of a raw file.
Some of the greatest photographers in history, including people like Cartier-Bresson,
Ansel Adams.
Ansel Adams, all of those guys would give instructions to the darkroom.
Dodging and burning like crazy.
Make this darker, make this brighter, remove this, make this brighter. If you go online and you look for the sheets, literally, that they would send.
Oh, they're fascinating. They're fascinating.
Absolutely. And we're talking about, so it was Cartier-Bresson that took what Time magazine called the photo of the century, which was behind the Laser. What's the name of it, Mark? Behind the Laser.
I know, I can't pronounce. There's a guy jumping over the puddle.
It's a guy jumping over a puddle.
We all can see the shot. Yeah.
And I had the
story is amazing.
I have the cropping instructions.
On my YouTube channel.
I have the cropping instructions, and I have all of his
markups.
The markups, right?
Yeah.
Now, would you say, Mark, that Cartier-Bresson was one of the greatest photographers of all time?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what these pros are saying today is, I know that Cartier-Bresson and Weston and all these guys, I know that they marked up and cropped in their stuff, but I'm just a little better than they are. I take it straight out of the camera. I know those guys had the crutch of cropping their images.
I know those guys, and they're lying.
Yeah.
They are lying to you.
And
for example.
What's the point? Here's the thing. Okay, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a video showing Ansel Adams. That's, by the way, youtube.com/Mark Silber. I have a video of Ansel Adams showing the photograph, the moon over Hernandez, New Mexico. The image the negative was very thin, underexposed, and he had to completely work it over in the darkroom. And then he put marks on the back of the print to show all the things he did. It's like 30 different things. So would it be better for him to have presented that as a really washed out, thin print that didn't have any life to it, or for him to develop it in the darkroom? You answer that question. The best way I know he put it was, the negative is the score, and the print is the performance.
Ooh,
would you
good.
Would you fault anybody who wrote music and then conducted it in a certain way to bring out the emotion or enhance it the way they thought it should be done?
Absolutely.
Right?
There you go.
It's art.
Yep. It is. All right. Well, did we give our winners out yet?
No, we haven't. So speaking of, we have Cheryl is winning the Boris Effects. It's Cheryl Havlek, I believe, is won the Boris Effects. And then Tanya, no last name, no. We'll figure out one of you. Tanya is winning the Platypod. And then Bruce is winning the iPhone book. So we will contact you, or if not, contact us at gridprize@KelbyOne.com. We'll verify your information, send you out your prize.
There you go. All right, Mark, where can people go to learn more about you?
Well, they can go to get this book, advancingyourphotography.com. You can go to my website, silberstudios.com. Make sure it's spelled with a B, silberstudios.com. There you go, right there. And go to my YouTube channel. It's Mark Silber, YouTube/Mark Silber. Look at that.
Woo.
Look at that. Look who I featured.
Look, and we're not social distancing. This must have been a couple of years ago.
This was a while ago. I'll have to put up this new video to show that things have changed. But there you go. So that's the best way to find out about me, and you can always follow me on Instagram as well. There it is, Mark Silber.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. It is always a treat to have you on the show. You are such a great guest, and you share so much. And I'm always impressed with your books and your writing. And thank you again. It's an honor to have you on the show. And let's do this again for
Scott
sure.
And Erik. Absolutely.
All right, guys.
I love you guys. Thanks
Same
again.
here. Thanks to our crew here in the studio, Juan and Ron and Jason, who all say the same thing. They took up photography to meet girls. And then there's Christina, and she's like, I'm already a girl. So, all right. Thanks to everybody else that's all of our sponsors, all of our viewers, all of our friends around the world. Thank you for your support. We're just wishing you good health and a very great week, and we'll catch you next week right here on The Grid.
I'm Jefferson Graham. I'm a Los Angeles writer, photographer, a former USA Today tech columnist, and I've got a great new class for you on KelbyOne.
I'll show you where all the best spots are to get your iconic LA shots so you won't be scrambling to find them when you get here. We'll cover epic travel and street photography, awesome sunsets, do some time lapses and panoramas, and I'll show you how to get amazing photos of the city that, of course, gave birth to the motion picture industry. Then we'll look up at the amazing palm trees of Beverly Hills 90210, catch the top spots for the LA skyline, movie locations, a killer freeway shot, and of course, we'll be ending at the beach for what I hope will be a memorable sunset.
Ready to get started? We're in LA, the birthplace of the movies, so you know what they say. Action!
Would you believe us if we told you that you could fit studio lighting in your pocket? Well, Lytra has made it possible. Lytra is a global award-winning brand that designs and manufactures professional-grade camera lights that are compact, rugged, and waterproof. Whether you're using Lytra gear in a photo studio or underwater, Lytra's mission is to provide content creators with flexible and unlimited lighting tools that can mount on any camera, anywhere. Their lights come with a high CRI or color rendering index, making them some of the most color accurate lights in the industry. Due to the light's compact and rugged design, photographers are able to use the lights in ways that their studio lighting never could. Lytra has also made multiple lighting accessories available to fit your every need as a creator. Whether you're shooting portraits, nailing a product shot, or even flying your drone, they have got you covered. Lytra enables photographers and filmmakers to focus on their craft and create something beautiful. What will you create?
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Platypod, the world's most compact tripod base.
Make sure you don't miss any episodes of The Grid by subscribing to Apple's podcast app or iTunes. It's free, and we even have a special audio-only version too. So sign up today.